YouTube, how's it going? Jujubear here. So it's Tuesday, so time for another episode of Total War Tuesday, where we play a best of 3 small funds mini tournament on any title from the Total War franchise. Now today we're going to be jumping into a couple of games from Total War Rome 2. Now these are entertaining matches. They were fun to play, and whether or not they're fun to watch, we'll see. So I brought the Boii. Pretty strong choice for an initial, game 1 matchup. I've brought one Oathsworn in the center, flanked by 2 sword followers, and bringing out the front as a Celtic Slinger. On the flanks, I've got a Levy Freeman and an upgraded double XP Chevron Celtic Warrior. I've got a heavy horse. Now my opponent here, Artful Dodger, good player, good guy. He has brought Egypt. So on each flank are these Camel Spearmen, double XP Chevrons on both of them, a Nubian Spearman up the front, in the center, and he's brought 3 of these Galatian Swordsmen, pretty good units, and 4 Carrying Axemen. Now these guys have lots and lots and lots of javelins, these Carrying Axemen, and these Galatian Swordsmen are fairly good for the price. They won't be able to hold up to sword followers, but if he can hold me in place with these Galatian Swordsmen and throw his javelins with these Carrying Axemen, he does stand a pretty good chance of defeating me. Especially if he uses his Camel Spearmen to good effect, with rear charges and that kind of thing. So my opponent, note that I have got the skirmishing advantage, even though I only have 1 slinger. I probably have the cav advantage as well, with the heavy horse. Coming up against both of these Camel Spearmen, I'll probably be able to duke out a win against both of those units. As for infantry, I'm not really sure, it's hard to say. I mean, Oathsworn, if in the right engagement, could defeat all of those units, by themselves, but it's hard to say. If he can flank me correctly, or well, he's going to be able to deal with me fairly easily. So, in this tournament, there's a max 3 of the same unit rule, and I just put that in place to stop spamming. Now, this rule was contested by my opponent here, Artful Dodger. And to good effect, I'm always open to feedback, so we did try the first 2 games with this rule in place, and then the 3rd match, we ditched that rule altogether, and we just tried kind of like a bonus round, where we just, got rid of the rule and saw what happened. Not going to say anything else. My opponent did kind of break the rules with his Carrying Axemen, because he's got 4 of them. One of them is the General. I did point that out at the start of the match, but I was like, nah, man, let's just play the match and see what happens. Usually in these kind of tournaments, if the rule breaker wins the match, then the person who had the rule broken against them can opt to restart the match or ask for a restart. So you can see what he's doing with his Camel Spearmen, just bringing him up the front, kind of loading one side up with cavalry, it looks like. So he's going to have the advantage on this side. So what I'm going to do, because he can probably see my Levy Freeman here, and they're going to be a big threat to his cavalry. These guys have javelins, they're fairly good against cavalry with their 25 bonus versus large. And they are light, so they're fairly quick as well. So that's probably why he's brought all of his cavalry over to this side. So what I'm going to do is face him with my Levy Freeman. And this Celtic Warrior was actually going to be my flanking support. So I'm going to switch over with my Levy Freeman and get my Celtic Warrior over on this side so that hopefully I can wrap around and do some flanking with that unit. My heavy horse, I've got a couple of options with this heavy horse. I could do a number of things. So what I could do is come straight up and support my Levy Freeman in the fight against these Camel Spearmen, even though I might not even have to. I could just do a frontal YOLO, maybe hit some of his swords or destroy his Nubian Spearmen or something like that. Because most of these units are fairly... I mean, he's got medium melee infantry and light spear infantry, so nothing heavy in this army composition here. And not too many spears either. Mind you, they do have precursors, so these javelins could really wreck my heavy horse. So a lot of my killing potential is going to come from these heavy horse and these Oathsworn here. Just going to put it in forward for a second while we jostle. So it looks like I'm moving up a little bit. You can see I'm far outnumbered. Like, he's got lots of 8 9, 10, 11 against 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 11 versus 7 units at the moment. I just have to make sure that my quality over quantity counts to something. So you can see my slingers are going to start opening fire. I don't know what I'm targeting at this point. I think they're just on fire at will. What I was hoping to do is save these units for the late game. Looks like I'm targeting these Galatian swordsmen, and I'm probably going to get a few hits on these carrion axemen as well. So probably not going to get too many kills. Probably just trying to be more annoying than anything else. So let's check out what I'm doing. So I'm screening with my Levy Freeman just to hold or ward off these camel spearmen. And I've clicked attack orders with my heavy horse. Now these units are going to come in and smash into these, I've popped Frenzy Charge as well. They're going to smash into these Galatian swordsmen, knock many of them over, and then I'm going to bring up my sword followers straight up and help out with that fight. So I've effectively pretty much pulled down 40, 50, 60, 70 of those units, this Galatian swordsman, and I've supported with these sword followers, and they're going to have an easy time with that unit. So I popped my battle rhythm on my general, my Oathsworn, and he's going to make short work of those Nubian spearmen. My sword follower over here is getting ganged up on, but that's okay because I've got support incoming with my Celtic warriors. Over on the other flank, he hasn't really moved anything with his camel spearmen because I am screening. I didn't even lose any units on my heavy horse, but they are very tired because I did use Frenzy Charge, so I'm just sitting them there waiting for late game. He is supporting with a couple more Galatian swordsmen over here. My general did manage to make very short work of those Nubian spearmen, and they are now hacking their way through these carrion axemen. They've lost 3 men at this point. The Boii are just a better faction. I can admit that. I didn't know how good Artful Dodger was at these small funds games, so I kind of went pretty hard in the first match. So I brought a very good build, and you can see I'm bringing my heavy horse around for a rear charge into these units. So these carrion axemen, these medium melee infantry, are probably not going to stand a chance against that, and they're now wavering with 100 men left, 190 men left. My Levy Freeman are being annoying, just kind of chasing after his camel spearmen. And it's to that point that he quit because he kind of knew that the game was over. So 216 kills on the Oathsworn, pretty good. These sword followers destroying both of their units. The heavy horse only got 1 charge and killed 88 of those Galatian swordsmen. A lot of his units didn't really even get many kills at all. So it was kind of over before it kind of reached a climax. So game 2, Parthia versus Rome. Pretty classic. Now Rome are very strong in the infantry department. We all know this if you've been playing Rome Total War 2 for a while now. He has brought 3 of these Hastati. Very, very good cost-effective infantry there. He's got a Praetorian, I think that is, and auxiliary infantry. Oh no, Vigiles, Jesus. And he's also got a Socci Equites and a Legatus General. And also an auxiliary Syrian archer. So these guys, I'm going to have to be careful of these guys that I don't get on the receiving end of those their shots, because they do 35 missile damage. They don't have armor, they don't have ammo reserves like slingers do, but they are still going to be very dangerous to me. Now you can see my army composition. I've split myself up into 2. Now this can be, a lot of people would consider this risky, because if he focuses all of his attacks in on one group of enemies, of my units, then I'm going to have to try and support with these units, and they might be too far away. A lot of people don't really like to do this kind of thing, but I think it's kind of safe to do this with a faction like Parthia, because you have so many cavalry units that can support and that can reach other, units fairly quickly. Now my army composition is made up of a couple of these sandwiches. I've got an Eastern Slinger up the front, an Eastern Spearman to screen, and a Median Cav on this side. I got an Eastern Slinger, a Median Cav, and a Royal Cataphract over on this side as well. And I've also brought 2 of these Mercenary Summation Horse Archers. Very, very, very cheap, fairly good units. They've got Heavy Shot, I believe. Yep, so they're in Heavy Shot at the moment. Facing up against Rome, you pretty much just put them on Heavy Shot straight away, because most of these units are going to be... not true, actually. Most of them are medium. Except for this Praetorian Guard. So this is going to be very hard to break this unit. So he's definitely got the infantry advantage. The only infantry that I've got on the field at the moment are these Eastern Spearmen with the silver XP chevron. Don't really know why I did that, but YOLO. I've got 2 Eastern Slingers that I'm hoping to just kind of pick apart the enemy. I'm going to be so annoying. My playstyle is going to be really frustrating to deal with on my opponent's part. So you can see I'm just bringing my Summation Horse Archers, getting into range, taking some shots, and every time he turns around to kind of shoot back, I'm going to get the other Horse Archer and take some shots with that one. So getting some good shots into these Soki Equites with heavy shot. Doing a lot of HP damage, I'm sure. So now that he's turned around and he's facing this Horse Archer, I'm going to bring this Horse Archer in. No doubt my opponent, by the end of this game, was getting pretty annoyed because it's a pretty annoying playstyle to deal with. But when you're playing against Rome, sometimes this is your only option. I don't know why I popped it into a Whistling Shot there. I think that was a mistake. Oh no, my opponent has Whistling Shot. Okay. So using Whistling Shot means that he's going to be getting fear effects on not only my unit, but a couple of his own as well. So yeah, but yeah, you can see how annoying it is. It's like I'm bringing my units in, and he turns around to fire, and then I'm going to bring the other one in and, you know, run away with that one. So, and then I'm just getting my units into position. So, doing a bit of a surround, going to try and get around here, because if I'm firing into the front of these Roman units, I'm not really going to do much damage at all. So I want to kind of get shots into the side or into the rear, if I can. So at the moment, we're just jostling, killing Vigiles at the moment. I don't know why I'm targeting them. They're not really a threat to me. These Summation Lancers, Summation Horse Archers have got 7 kills. A lot of those have been on this Soki Equites already, so that's good news for me. I am going to open fire with my Eastern Slingers on these Hastati. Now these Hastati are going to be very difficult to deal with, so I'm going to have to do something about them very early on. And it's at this point that I'm going to bring the big guns in. Let's just go into Royal Cataphract cam here. So we're going to get a full frontal YOLO onto these Hastati. I don't think they had attack orders on my Cataphracts there. So we just managed to destroy that Hastati pretty much with the trample charge, and I'm going to run away before his Vigiles can help out. He probably is going to be able to catch me with his Soki Equites here, so I'm going to have to do something about that with my Median Cav. So I'm going to just try and hide behind my own Median Cav. My Median Cav get a pretty good charge into that same Hastati just to try and break them. And he has got his unit away from the rest of these army. So I'm going to get a good charge in here with my Summation Horse Archers, just to try and hold them down. The same thing has happened on this side. I've just charged frontally into his Hastati with my Median Cav, and I'm going to try and get my units out of there. My Median Cav have been in that combat a little bit too long there, so I'm going to have to pull out. He does catch me with his Soki Equites, so I'm going to turn around with my Median Cav and slam into the back of him and destroy it. We actually didn't manage to kill that off that Hastati here. But at the moment you can see my Eastern Slingers are targeting. What are they targeting? This little glob of units here. So we're going to try and get rid of this Hastati off the field. You can just see how good they're... Like these Hastati, their morale is just so good that they're able to like stay on the field with 18 men left. Like that's such a cheap unit, and yet they're able to stay in the field for that long. It's ridiculous. So my Eastern Spearmen are holding up 2 Hastati. You'll never see this ever. This Summation Horse Archer is just getting some good shots into these Vigiles. I'm not really sure what I'm planning on doing there. I get a good charge into these Vigiles here. I'm just trying to get the rest of these units off the field, because they've been on, like this Hastati, come on, 12 men left. You need to just get out of here, mate. So it's good. We do manage to destroy those 2 units with my Median Cav. And I'm going to pull my Eastern Slingers around. And I think I'm going to either target the... No. So it looks like he's coming after my Slingers with his Legatus. Good decision. I'm going to have to get my Median Cav and go after him though. I get an awkward charge in here with my Royal Cataphracts. I wasn't actually aiming to destroy these Vigiles, but it's a really awkward charge there. Don't really know what's going on there, but we did manage to break that Vigile. I get a charge into these Vigiles with my Median Cav. I'm going to have to pull out of that engagement as soon as possible because that's not very favorable for me. I am firing into this glob of units with my Eastern Slingers. They're getting a fair few kills, 19 so far. On my other Slingers unit, I've got 58 kills. And it looks like I'm firing into the back of these Praetorian guards. So this is definitely the kind of shots that I want to be making. And I'm going to pull through with my Royal Cataphracts. Well, not pull through, but just kind of escape these Praetorians with my Royal Cataphracts and destroy these Syrian archers there. So it's kind of split up. This is exactly what you want to do against the Roman army. Make sure that you don't face them head on. You kind of split them up and pick them apart in pieces. So my Median Cav get a really disappointing charge into the back of these Hastati, so I'm going to have to try and pull out of that. But it enables me a little bit of time for my Eastern Slingers to turn around and fire into the back of those units. Hopefully we can get a better charge with against these units, and we definitely do. We probably going to destroy that Hastati and that Vigilius on that charge. We do manage to destroy the Legatus General over there, and we're going to get a pretty good charge with my Royal Cataphract into the front of these Praetorian Guard. So we knock down quite a few and get a fair few kills there, and I'm just going to pull straight through and escape that before they can get back up and start hacking me down. I'm going to send my Median Cav in here, see if I can get a good charge, which I do not. Sometimes the charges are a little bit buggy and weird, and at this point I think I popped my unit into Flaming Shot. There we go. So Flaming Shot coming in. I'm just trying to get a nice rout on those two units, but again my opponent quits the game without finishing it. So we've got the Royal Cataphract, 305 kills, 171 kills in this Median Cav. Summation Horse Archers getting 117. They must have been mostly on Vigilius there. And the Eastern Slingers doing what they do best, which is just wear units down. The only unit that he was able to kill most of a lot of my own units was with this Legatus and this Hastati. So anyway, game 3. So game 3, my opponent was talking about the max 3 of the same unit rule. And I thought, yeah, sure, let's just mess around. So it's kind of like a bonus round, this last one. I have brought the Getae because I'm doing a Folks spam. I've got 8 of these units. Now these guys are fucking punishing. You can see they're carrying these little funny little hooked swords here. And those little hooked swords, those Folkses, do a lot of damage. So 38 39 weapon damage and 38 weapon attack. The charge bonus is where they're going to be most deadly. So I'm just going to have to get frontal charges with these guys with 48 charge bonus. But you can see their melee defense is 11, which is horrible, and their armor is 10, so that's why they're so cheap. If you get some slingers or archers and fire upon these Folksmen, they will crumble faster than you can say, hey, where did my Folksmen go? And we got 3 of these spears, very cheap units that I'm hoping to just screen and chase after his heavy horse with. He has got 2 of those heavy horse. So very, very, very dangerous cavalry contingent brought from my opponent. And I've got a noble sword general. So a little bit of stability in amongst this mess of just like really unpredictable units. So my opponent here has brought a Celtic Warrior spam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he's brought an Oathsworn as well as the general. So going to be very difficult to break through this. But I'm hoping that with my Folksmen, in a couple of waves, I can just destroy these units here. So I was hoping to send in, matching up, you know, unit for unit, send in a Folksman, get a whole bunch of kills. They'll probably just get destroyed fairly quickly, and then I'll send in the second wave to hopefully get even more kills. And then by the late game, you know, my Noble Sword General can probably be of some use at some point. So I'm going to use 1 spear unit to refuse a rear charge from any cavalry, and I'm going to use the other spear units to just chase. Just spend pretty much the whole match just chasing those heavy horse units. Whether it works out like that, we'll see. So these charges are going to be absolutely fucking brutal. So I don't have precursors, he does, and he's going to shred a lot of my units straight off the charge there. But this combat is going to be fucking brutal. You can see my Folkses are a lot of them are getting destroyed actually, but if we zoom out a little bit, you can see I've already killed 60 of those Celtic Warriors there. Yep, 60 over there have been destroyed, but my Folksmen have just been, you know, hacked down very, 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 very quickly. So I'm going to send in the second wave and see if I can do some more damage. See, these Celtic Warriors are down by 70 at this point. And wave 2 is coming in. We'll see how I do there. This is a ridiculous battle. Absolutely ridiculous. So his units are kind of tired. Their morale's kind of breaking. So you're going to see these very cheap 350 talent units being thrown into the battle and actually do quite well. So These 63 Celtic Warriors are shaken. A couple of them are still fresh, just because the combat takes so long. But I'm going to throw my Noble Sword General in and see if I can come up against his Oathsworn here, because that'll be a fairly fair contest there. His Heavy Horse aren't really doing anything. I'm just trying to try and scream with my spears. I'm chasing him over here with them. They aren't really getting kills, but YOLO. So he has managed to win in the center, but out on the flanks I've managed to destroy him fairly easily. I'm bringing my Folksmen into the rear of this Celtic Warrior, and this is where they will shine. This is how they are supposed to be used, these Folksmen. And I'm going to get a rear charge into his Oathsworn unit here as well. So Folksmen, in the real world, not in these kind of battles, are used for rear charges and flank charges, and they'll do exceedingly well, even against a unit like an Oathsworn. Just because of that charge bonus of 48 and the weapon damage of 39. Now I'm going to get a fairly good charge into these Celtic Warriors as well, and we'll inflict a lot of damage onto that unit there. I didn't manage to sandwich this Heavy Horse, but we're going to get some kills anyway. So that rear charge into this Oathsworn has actually managed to destroy a lot of those units very quickly. And I'm going to be able to pull out my Folksmen and get another charge as well. He does manage to get a fairly good rear charge into my own Noble Sword General, and he's going to get a lot of kills off that charge, but it doesn't matter because I've got a stable anvil here in this Noble Sword, and I've got a lot of units left on the field, so I'm going to kind of pile my spears in on this big old mess and try and see if I can get some kills. I've popped Rally to try and keep my units in the game, but it doesn't look like their morale is going to be able to hold. So getting kills with these spears on these Heavy Horses, definitely a very cost-effective trade there. And we managed to get this Celtic Warrior off the field with a combination of spears and Folksmen. But like, their morale's just so shit. Well, it's not that bad, but still pretty bad. Their morale's just that bad. Even though they're winning the current combat, they still can't hold on. But it's just his Heavy Horse left on the field. And we do manage to cut them down fairly easily. So game 3 to Juju Bear. So all 3 matches, very entertaining to play. I think they were pretty entertaining to watch, especially that last one was ridiculous. Like, you can see the amount of kills on these Arverni units. They did manage to hack down a lot of my Folksmen, but it doesn't matter because I just had too many of them. I had 4 coming up against them. They all managed to get, you know, over 60 kills on most of them, which is half of their units anyway. And then the second wave was able to get a lot of kills as well. And these spearmen actually didn't realize that they would get so many kills as they did. And just a little bit of stability in these Noble Swords. My opponent, using these Heavy Horse, he could have used them a little bit better in terms of recharges. He could have destroyed my spears fairly easy just by charging them. And then getting rear charges into my Folksmen probably would have broken them a lot quicker than they actually did in most of those combats. So thanks Artful Dodger for the game. Good dude. We did have a talk about the max 3 units in these battles, and I'm gonna reconsider what the rules are. Maybe I can up it to 4. Maybe I can get rid of the rule altogether. Maybe no art can be, you know, just scrapped altogether as well. But we'll see what happens. But until see you guys next time, this is Juju Bear signing out. Peace.